Okay, let's get started. First, I'm going to wash my hands because we know how important that is. That is crucial when you're working in the kitchen. Alrighty. Okay, so today I am making a chocolate souffle, the real OG of souffles. This brings me back to my days as an entry-level cook in Philadelphia, and I absolutely love souffles. I know they have this preconceived notion of being finicky, but souffles are actually really easy to make. I'm making it at home, so that's how easy it is. Okay, so shall we get started? I went ahead and preheated my oven to 375 degrees, and I also left a space, a big space, because this souffle is going to rise. So I want to make sure that the racks have enough room so that the souffle can do its thing. Also, I have on the double boiler 58% dark chocolate. This recipe, I've used everything from about 58% dark chocolate to 70%. I wouldn't exceed more than 70% because then at that point it might just become too bitter. So as long as you're in the 58% range and 70, you're good. Just for time's sake, I went ahead and started melting that, and I'm actually going to remove it from the stove right now because a souffle, it consists predominantly of two parts. It's your base, which is, it can be a pâte à choux, it can be a pastry cream, a bechamel. I'm going to make a pastry cream base, and then it also consists of egg whites, which is essentially a meringue, and I'll explain that a little more in depth when we get to that. I'm going to go ahead and take my egg whites because I've already separated my yolks and my eggs. And I have it here in a mixing bowl. And for my meringue, I like to use a Swiss meringue base. And Swiss meringue is essentially egg whites and sugar combined together, and they're heated over a double boiler until the sugar dissolves. I mean, completely dissolves. That's very, very important when you're making a Swiss meringue, so that you know that sugar's dissolved. That's crucial. And you can test that out by, to be honest, I just stick my finger in there, but I've done it so many times I can actually see the consistency of it. But you can just feel it, and when you feel it, it should be sticky, but you should not feel any sugar granules. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and scale the sugar that I need for that. Okay, I'm just going to take a whisk and just lightly whisk it. Just a little bit. And I'm going to place that over the double boiler because I'm all about multitasking. Even when I'm at home, I like to just have things going. It's just a great feeling to feel like you're doing a lot, but I'm only doing two things. So I have that going, and while the Swiss meringue is, well, it's not a Swiss meringue yet, technically, but while it's melting, I'm gonna go ahead and make the base for our souffle. And it's super, super easy. It's essentially making a pastry cream. However, the ratio of flour is a lot higher because this base is adding flavor, but it's also adding structure. So I want to make sure that it has enough flour in there to do that. Okay, so in my bowl, I'm going to add flour, granulated sugar, and I'm just going to whisk that. I like to whisk the sugar and flour together. That way it just breaks up any lumps in the flour. And then I'm going to take a little bit of my cold milk, essentially making a slurry. Because when you're making pastry cream, it's all about tempering the eggs into your milk base. So it's very important that you create a slurry so that it doesn't curdle. Meanwhile, I'm going to take the rest of the milk and allow it to come to a scald. I absolutely love eating souffles. I really do. And to be honest, you really don't see them on menus nowadays. Because like I said, it's easy to make, but imagine that it's a very popular dessert and then you have like tickets lined up of a souffle here, a souffle there. Like I used to love the fun that came with it because I would have a ticket 10 minutes later, throw one souffle in, another 5 minutes. It was just a nice game to play. So I love it. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add my yolks. And right now my base is nice and smooth. I have the flour in there, I have the sugar, and I have my yolks. And what I'm going to do once this milk comes to a scald is called tempering. And tempering is a process of hot and cold because right now the milk is going to be warm, but technically my eggs are cold. So I'm going to gradually add a little bit of that warm mixture into here so that the playing field becomes even. That way when I dump it back into the pot, it's going to become cohesive and not be curdled and nasty like, because we don't want that. But it is going to be nice and thick. Okay, so meanwhile, while that's going, I have my ramekin dishes here, and I love these dishes because a good friend of mine in Texas, she got them for me for Christmas about, oh my, I was living in Dallas 2008 to 2011. So when I'm baking at home, especially during these times, it's very soothing when you go through your cabinet. You're like, oh my God, I remember my friend gave this to me. And that's actually what prompted me to make souffles, because I was like, I probably only use these dishes once because I'm not normally home when I'm working, but it just feels good to put them to use. Okay, so when you're preparing your ramekin for souffle, this step is more important than even making the actual base. You need to coat the inside of the ramekins with butter. Here I have some softened unsalted butter, and I'm just going to take a pastry brush and literally brush the insides, making sure it's coated very well. No need to go super heavy. It's just a thin coating, but then I just go back and brush up the sides. And I even like to put some butter on the rim as well. This is going to prevent the souffle from sticking and so that it can rise nice and tall, because that's what we want. So this recipe, it makes about 4, but I only have 2 of these. So just for now, I'm going to do 2. Once again, making sure to brush the inside, get the rim as well. And please make sure your butter is softened, just because it makes it easier to apply. Next, I'm going to take some granulated sugar, and I'm just going to coat. Actually, I'm gonna get a little bit more sugar. So now I'm going to take the granulated sugar and I'm going to swirl my ramekin, making sure that that sugar is coating all of that butter. And then I tap out any excess, and it should look like that on the inside. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the second one. Alrighty, I think my milk is ready. Oh, that was perfect timing. Okay, and just like that, I have my souffle So So now that my milk has come to a scald, you can see the steam. I'm going to gradually pour a little bit of that milk into my egg mixture. And then I'm going to place the remainder of it back onto the stove. And when I used to make this while in Philadelphia, I used to make a big batch, a really big batch. So I found it easier that if my milk in the pot comes to a roaring boil, it will cook a lot faster. I learned that the hard way because one day I was just standing there whisking and whisking, and it was because it came to a scald, but still it took longer for it to cook and thicken because it wasn't as hot. So one pro tip for you is to bring that milk to a scalding boil so that by the time you dump in your slurry mixture, it's going to come together a lot faster. And we are there. And I'm just going to whisk and dump all of that in at the same time. And this is how I used to get my workout at work, at least my arm workout. So I would just be standing there whisking away. And for me, baking at home right now, it's definitely therapeutic for me. It's always been, but even more so now, because I'll be honest, this is the first time I put on a chef jacket since it was Friday the 13th March. I'll never forget because I was actually with some CCAP students, and that's when it all hit me that I was like, oh my goodness, we are really about to go into a crisis. But I remember the students just being so focused on their work still. The principal came on the loudspeaker and he made an announcement, but they just kept going, and that was just so inspiring and motivating to see them just put their heads down and keep going. They were like, we're going to get through this practice today, and it was just awesome. Really, really good. So it feels good to put on a chef jacket. All right, so this is getting thicker. And I'm going to just keep whisking until it comes together. And when you're making pastry cream, it's very important to control your heat and to also make sure you're whisking constantly. I mean, constantly. You cannot walk away from pastry cream. I am getting the outside, I am getting the inside. It's very, very important. And once it starts to get a little thick, I actually turn off my heat because that residual heat in the pot is going to keep that pastry cream cooking. Oh yeah. And like I said, this is a lot thicker than most pastry creams. And normally when you're making pastry cream, you normally add vanilla bean or vanilla extract. But since I'm making dark chocolate, I'm actually not going to add the vanilla bean because this is so intense that the chocolate is going to add enough flavor as it is. So as you can see, whoo, that is thick. Just the way I want it. Just making sure. Yes. And that's my workout for the day. I'm kidding. No, not really. That's probably my workout. All right, so now that my base is ready, this recipe, well, this amount, I'm not going to use it for the entire batch that I'm doing now. So I'm going to scale out only what I need for this recipe. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to clear up my space. K-Go, as we call it, clean as you go. And the cool thing about this base is that I could have made it yesterday and it will last up to 2 to 3 days in the refrigerator, but I wanted to make sure I showed you the process. But this could have been done last night for sure, or even earlier this morning. Alrighty. gonna go ahead and set this aside, and I'll probably end up making more souffles since I have some base. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and check our egg whites and sugar. And I'm gonna just give that like another minute, but we're really close now. So far, look how easy this is. Like I said, it consists of your base, which is the pastry cream. You can flavor it anything you want. I've had lemon, raspberry, strawberry. There's so much you can do. I've actually been thinking about doing an ube souffle because I love ube. I'll play with that later. But the other essential part of the souffle are the egg whites, which I said is the meringue, because the meringue is going to lift that souffle. It's going to make it rise. But also when you're making a meringue, you're incorporating air into it, right? So air, once it's exposed to heat, it expands, which will make your souffle rise. The base is very important, not just because of flavor, but because it gives it structure as well. A souffle will collapse after about, it can range anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes because it is very delicate due to the gas that's in it, and there's not enough in it for it to be sufficient so that it will collapse. So it's very important that once you bake your souffle, that whoever's eating it, they better be ready. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this meringue whipping. I do apologize in advance. It's gonna get a little loud in here. And this KitchenAid that I have, y'all, it is, I graduated from Johnson & Wells 12 years ago? Yes, 12 years ago. And this was a graduation gift from my godparents. So once again, baking at home is just filled with so many memories for me, and that's why I love doing it. But I remember it being a graduation gift, and I was so excited. I was like, yay! I just felt official then. I felt like a true professional because I was like, I can bake at home now. All right, let's get this on the mixer. Go ahead, sorry if I'm yelling. I'm gonna go ahead and put my chocolate back into the double boiler. And when you have a double boiler, it's very important that your water does not touch the actual bowl. I don't know if you can really see, but I don't have it filled all the way to the top. And I actually brought it to a boil before I place the chocolate on there. I get really nervous when I have a flame going with my double boiler because sometimes that can be a little too much and your chocolate can seize, or sometimes the condensation can drip into your chocolate. And we know that chocolate and water is a no-no. We are really close. As you can see, the souffle is super, super easy thus far. Our base is already made, our chocolate is melted, and now we have a Swiss meringue going. So I'm happy. And I get to eat a souffle at probably 9:45 in the morning. I know I probably shouldn't, but I'll take a couple bites for sure. When you're making a souffle, everyone has their own recipe. I've seen a lot of people whip their egg whites to soft peaks, but for my particular recipe, I like to whip them to stiff peaks. I just find that it works better and it gives it the height and stability that I want. So I am going to whip these pretty firm. Just to show you, this is pretty soft right now. I want it to be a little bit more. So I'm gonna keep it going. I always wonder if my neighbors can hear me whipping the machine. There's times when I come home and I'm like, I just want to make something real quick. It sounds so loud, but no one has complained, so. Alright, that has a few more seconds. What I'm going to do once the meringue is ready, I'm going to take the base and I'm going to mix it into the chocolate, making sure it's fully incorporated. It's going to get a little thick, but that's fine because the meringue is going to loosen up the base. We are there. You see the difference? It's not falling off the whip anymore. It's just staying in place. And that's exactly what I want. Okay, so I'm going to take my souffle base. Making sure I get all of that. And I'm going to mix it right into the chocolate. And as you can see, it's beginning to get a little thick, but that's exactly what I want. Perfect. All right, so now I'm going to take about a third of this meringue. And once again, everyone has their own way of doing it, but I'm showing you how I do it. And I like to take this meringue, and in the beginning, I'm going to be a little heavy-handed because I want to loosen up that base. Because right now, it's pretty thick, but this meringue is loosening it up. And don't worry about folding it in completely because we still have 2 more thirds of meringue to add. I'm going to go ahead and add another third. Now at this point, I don't want to be heavy-handed. I want to be pretty gentle, but I want to work pretty fast. And I like to do the fold over method, meaning that I'm taking what's on the bottom and bringing it to the top. So literally what's on the bottom and bringing it to the top. But I want to be gentle, but still work pretty fast because the meringue is delicate. It wants to just lie down and collapse because that's what meringues do. Once again, I'm not going to fold it all in because I still have the rest. And what I actually like to do, and I think this is because I used to make really big batches, is that I just take this and dump it into the mixer. And I think that just stuck with me because I used to make really, really big batches, and sometimes I couldn't find a bowl big enough to do that. But now I want to make sure that all of the meringue is fully incorporated. Working fast but gentle with the fold over method. Making sure I'm scraping what's on the bottom and the sides. Still have a little bit more meringue there, but I'm almost there. Oh yeah. This makes me happy. Okay, this is looking good. When portioning the soufflés, personally, I like to use an ice cream scoop because I just feel as though I have more control instead of trying to like pour it out of the bowl. or using a piping bag. But also when you're pouring your base into the ramekins, you want to make sure, well, it's not a base anymore, it's your batter. When you're pouring your batter into the ramekin, you want to make sure that you don't get any batter on the rim, because that can interrupt the baking process as far as making it really tall. So I'm very careful to just only scoop in right into the center. And to get the ultimate height, I fill this ramekin to the top. Yes, because I want it to be nice and tall. And I've worked with some chefs who will actually fill it to the top, but then they would take their thumb and run their fingers around the circumference of the ramekin. I don't feel that it's necessary for this particular recipe, but you will see some chefs do that as well. And then I just try to level it off a little bit. Oh, that's another thing. Some chefs, I've actually seen them take like an offset spatula and scrape off the top, but I don't find it necessary for my recipe. All right. And the other cool thing that I like is that I don't have to bake both of these now. This recipe will actually hold in the refrigerator overnight unbaked. And then about 30 minutes prior to baking it, I just pull it out and leave it at room temperature and just carry on with the baking process. So it's only me, so I'm only going to bake one, and then I'll save the rest for tomorrow. Alrighty, make sure that's leveled off. My oven, crucial that you make sure that it's preheated. That is essential, especially the type of ovens that I have at home. You have to preheat your oven, but even in the professional kitchen, you should preheat your ovens. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it in. It's going to take roughly about 12 to 15 minutes. I am going to set a timer for 12. Make sure it's going, because I've done that before. Thought I hit the start button, but actually I didn't. So, but we're gonna go ahead and let that bake for 12 to 15 minutes. In the meantime, I'm gonna just go ahead and see if we have some questions. That's awesome. So soufflés have been around for a very, very long time. It's, in my opinion, one of the best desserts that you can make starting out as a pastry chef, because one, you're learning different skill sets in one recipe. For example, the pastry cream, how to make a meringue, but also timing. Time management in the kitchen is very, very important. So that's why I think souffle is a great dessert for any entry-level pastry cook or any culinarian, to be honest. So that's why I chose this one for you guys. But also, when it comes to soufflés, like the example I gave earlier, you have to be on your toes all the time, because the guests, they don't care, that you're back there working hard and you might have 10 tickets with soufflés on it. They want those desserts to come out on time. So time management. And as you can see, it's very easy to make at home. So if you have some chocolate lying around, and I know you probably have eggs and sugar, butter, then try it. If you don't have a KitchenAid, you can definitely use a handheld mixer, or you can go super old school and do it by hand as well. But I just wanted to briefly talk about my journey. I know a lot of you experience a lot of uncertainty, including myself, during these times, but do know that it will pass. I know it might seem like it's taking forever, but do know that it will. And in the meantime, use this opportunity to allow your creative juices to flow, because that's what I'm doing. I'm just thinking, I'm reflecting, but I'm also taking time to go through the emotions. I would be lying if I said every day I'm just like, all right, yay, quarantine. I'm not. I'm really not. But I am finding happiness in knowing that I get to do things that I wasn't able to do when I was working, and that's little things, as just baking at home, organizing my kitchen, a lot of FaceTiming with my nieces and nephews and other loved ones, even using different hair products. I'm trying this new temporary wax color. I'm just painting my nails. Like, it may seem simple, but that's what I would suggest finding some happiness right now. As far as our careers, I don't have an answer for that, but the only advice that I can give you is to reach out to a chef that you've always wanted to work with. Social media is an excellent platform to do that. Slide into their DM and introduce yourself. They may or may not respond, but I think this is a great opportunity to build those connections, because sometimes it just starts with a quick hello, how are you? Enhance your LinkedIn profile and just jot down some ideas, like as desserts that you want to make or a dish you want to make. I have tons of notebooks that I just write down random combinations. Who knows, I might use it, I might not, but I would say take advantage of that. Just take advantage of coming up with some crazy ideas, because you never know when you're going to use it. All right, a couple questions. What does souffle mean? I know it's French. Souffle means to essentially puff up, to rise, to inflate. It is a very French term. I believe the actual word was not souffle. It had like an R at the end. Souffle. I don't have me speaking French, but it's been around since about the 18th century, but it became even more popular around the 19th century. Love your quarantine look, chef. Thanks. Chef jacket. Like I said, the last time I was in a chef jacket was Friday the 13th of March, and I was actually in a CCAP high school kitchen, and it was such a great experience working with the students. So it feels good to put it back on. It's like full circle. I'm all about that. What else? So I started out in CCAP as well. Back in, oh my goodness, I'm about to show my age right now, 2002. Yeah, I was a junior in high school. 2000. Anyway, I was a junior in high school at Frankfurt in Philadelphia, and Mrs. Stephenson was my culinary arts teacher, and she introduced me to Careers Through Culinary Arts program. And I'm telling y'all, looking back as a junior in high school, the first thing I learned how to make was quail wrapped in prosciutto, Chilean sea bass. Like, we were really cooking. You couldn't tell us we weren't bad. We were cooking, making lemon curd infused with basil and then caramelizing the top. It was the real deal. And that combined with essays and competitions, I was very fortunate, and CCAP awarded me a full tuition scholarship to Johnson Wells Providence. And that's pretty much when my career took off. And as you all get into college, the best advice, and I have a nephew who is part of the graduating class of 2020. I can't imagine how you all are feeling right now, especially with the quarantine, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it and try to say that I do know, but what I can say is once you get into school, try to put this quarantine behind you and focus on your studies. Focus on taking advantage of every opportunity that your school may offer, and that's what I did. I don't have a secret recipe to success, and success looks different to everyone. So, but I will say, while at Johnson and Wells, I was a teacher's pet. Actually, my whole life I was a teacher's pet, and I have no shame in saying that, because those relationships will last. And 18 years later, I still talk to Mrs. Stephenson, my high school culinary teacher. I still stay in touch with my instructors from Johnson and Wells, and building those connections and networking. That's what I think is going to help you through that, because your instructors, they will not steer you the wrong way. They have your best interests in mind, and they love seeing their students succeed. To them, that's the icing on the cake. And I know that because one of my instructors who helped me with the competition when I was there, she was telling me that she came across a card that I gave her about 12 years ago, maybe a little longer than that, maybe 12 or 14 years ago, and she still has the card, and I was just like over the moon, because I'm grown now, and seeing that she still has that card. So I asked her to Photoshop to take a photo of it and send it to me, and that just made my day for sure. So those connections are very important, not just on a personal level but professional level as well, because they can help you navigate through this. They can give you advice on where to work, or whether you should go into a hotel or a freestanding restaurant or nutrition. They're just filled with so much knowledge. So wrap them around your arms and just love them to death, because you're not going to know when you may need them. But also, it's very important to not only surround yourself with your instructors, but surround yourself with great peers. That's one advice that I can give you as well. I made sure that I befriended those who were striving to do well, those who were competing in the competitions, those who were staying after class to get more help or doing extracurricular activities, because we all know, your friends say a lot about your character as well. And even to this day, I'm still a firm believer of that. Most of my friends, that they have the same work ethic as me, or the same drive. So that's crucial. Okay, let's check the souffle. Oh, y'all, it's looking good. The timer is about to go off, but I'm going to give it another 3 minutes, because I gave it 12, but remember I said it will take about 12 to 15 minutes to get off topic. But when someone asks me how long should it bake, I'm like, until it's done. And people think I'm being sarcastic, but baking is a science, and my oven is different from your oven. I can give you a range. I can say between 12 and 15, but I can never give you an exact answer. Maybe if we're in the same kitchen and we're using the same oven every day, that might work. But even then, it's still great to check your food halfway through. You cannot rely rely on your timer 100%. You cannot rely on your oven 100%. So please, please, please never get stuck on saying that something takes exactly that amount of time, because more than likely that's not correct. One Philly girl to another. Talk about how you have overcome challenges faced because you are a minority and a woman. You are a shining example for my students. Oh, that's so sweet. Okay. The best way that I can put it, because we know that diversity is at the forefront of almost every company. And I knew prior to getting into this industry that it was and still is a male-dominated industry. However, a lot has changed from when I first started, but that was instilled in me as a junior in high school, that Lasheeda, you are a young African woman walking into a male-dominated industry. So I'm glad that that wisdom was given to me then, and that prepared me for, I want to say, how to maneuver through all of that, because I knew that I was going to stand out no matter what. But I wanted to make sure if I stood out, that I stood out being the best version of myself. So that meant that I was the one competing in every competition that I could at Johnson & Wells. I was the one doing extracurricular activities. I just made sure that I represented myself in the manner that I knew my teachers would be happy, but I knew that my family, my friends, and my culture would be happy as well. And it was very important to throw in my culture part, because that's me being authentic. And as a chef, we're artists. We are just as passionate as a singer, as a dancer. It's an art. And if you know that every artist is always striving to be authentic, the real ones, they want to be authentic. And I made sure to walk that line, to be true to who I am, to be true to the struggles. Gotta check this souffle. I will continue that though. Oh my God, these are looking great. Okay. But yes, I was never afraid to face diversity. I was never afraid to be myself while still being professional. All right, let me put this back up because I need y'all to see this beautiful souffle. And no, I'm not bragging. I'm not. All right, here we go. You ready? Okay. Y'all, I think this might be the best souffle I've made. And it's because I'm feeling all of the positive energy. But can you see that? Oh, okay. That is super, super pretty. And when the perfect souffle, in my opinion, will have like a molten center and will have like a spongy, airy texture, like with small little bubbles trapped throughout. It should not be completely solid all the way through. That's my personal preference. It's very hot, so I'm getting a towel. But you want to make sure that you serve it right away, and you want to make sure that you don't over bake it. Have you heard of the term carryover cooking? That's essentially saying that when you pull a product out of the oven or even in a pan or pot, that residual heat from the pan is still causing it to cook. So, for example, you ever bake cookies and you realize the center looks a little wet? I pull that cookie out when there's like a quarter size still left, because I know that cookie is still going to bake from the outside in. Don't pull your product when it's completely done. You pull it slightly under, because it's probably going to sit on that pan or on that sheet tray and bake some more. So that's my whole thing with the souffle as well. I got excited there. All right, when enjoying a souffle, There's so many ways you can enjoy it. I've dusted it with cocoa powder before. I've put a chocolate decor on it. Some people do powdered sugar, but I love eating it with a scoop of my favorite ice cream. Or your favorite flavored chantilly. There's so many ways you can enjoy it, but I'm all about that hot cold contrast. Like, I want that hot souffle with a cold scoop of chantilly or a scoop of ice cream. But like I said, it is 9:44 in the morning here in LA, so I'm not going to eat it with a scoop of ice cream, but I am going to try it for you all. You see how it's nice and tall? Look at that. All right, here we go. Okay. Yes. Like I said, I like it molten in the center, and then it's nice and spongy and airy on the outside. So cheers to the class of 2020. Know that you are all loved, and just embrace yourself around positive people. That's the only advice I can give right now. Just do that. You know, any of you want to reach out to me, you definitely can. I would be more than happy to give you any advice that I can. But yeah, just love each other and be good to each other. My mentor, who I met through an instructor at Johnson & Wales, she always told me, be good to people. And that's all I can say. But I thank you all for... Oh, I didn't even take a bite. I'm sorry. My bad. That's good. And as you can see, it's starting to deflate already. But that is really, really good, y'all. But it's a little too early for me to indulge into all of that. But I thank you all for tuning in. If you have any questions or just want to talk, you can reach out to me. All right, y'all, be safe, and congratulations to you all. Bye.